Hello everyone. I got a fun activity to get us started. How many of y'all here think Michael Jordan is the greatest NBA player of all time? Show of hands. Okay, that's what I expected. I want you to open up your phones and do a quick Google search of Michael Jordan. Scroll to the bottom and just check out the top stories panel over there. The top news stories for Michael Jordan trending at this time. So you should find us there, Essentially Sports. Reason I bring it up is chances are you've read one of our articles passed by the website. But here we are today. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Essentially Sports. We cover sports from the fan's perspective, somewhere in the middle of like a fan opinion and the expert's take. We focus on doing content that's focused on super engaged niche communities. So we're the leading publishers for NASCAR and golf. Super excited today to have this conversation with Casey. Casey is the CMO of Rocket Mortgage, but to me he's the unofficial mayor of Detroit. I think the CMO is more of a day job for him. Welcome, Casey. Casey oversees all marketing initiatives for the company's in-house agency while driving new innovative strategies to captivate the audience of the nation's largest and most trusted mortgage lender. Under his leadership, Rocket Mortgage has earned 2 consecutive #1 rankings atop the highly coveted USA Today Ad Meter, the leading Super Bowl ranking commercial platform. In 2022, the company achieved the honor for place in Ad Age's Best Places to Work. Casey joined the company in 2017 after 24 years in automotive marketing, most recently leading advertising and communications for Fiat, where he helped successfully reintroduce the Fiat brand to American car buyers. Equally important to Casey is his work with the local and national nonprofits. And in addition to his community efforts, Casey serves on the board of directors for AdCraft Detroit and the Detroit Sports Commission. Is there anything I missed out, Casey?
No, that's about good. Husband, father, all the goodness in life as well.
So let's kick off with the theme of the day. What started your passion for sports and infusing sports marketing into the overall Rocket Mortgage strategy?
Yeah, personally, I'm a huge sports fan, in which, I was born and raised and always was a sports fan. And when I joined Rocket 7 years ago, there was a healthy sports landscape, if you will, and partnerships, media, whatever it might be. And when I joined 7 years ago, we were in the midst of also rebranding, going from Quick Loans to Rocket Mortgage. Not only as a brand, ultimately the company, we went public. And sports has always been a platform, if you will. It's generally 30-40% plus of our marketing investment is in sports. And over the last 7 years, we've formed a partnership with the NFL, several teams. We have partnerships with the Cleveland Cavaliers, obviously. Our chairman, founder, Dan Gilbert, owns the Cleveland Cavaliers. We have a partnership with the PGA Tour, and one of the things I'm most proud of, I think we'll talk about a little bit later, is there was a vision that Dan had, and a big part of what we do at Rocket in Detroit is help shine a spotlight on the city, working with public and private sector to do so. And there was a vision to bring a PGA Tour event to Detroit, and I was on the forefront of that in 2018, and we started that in 2019. That's been a wild ride. Every year the PGA Tour is another year of drama and saga that continues, and that's part of the excitement. And we've grown in different spaces, and I just think it's a super exciting time. Whether it's on the team content, athletes, certainly the media, and there's just seems so much moving so fast in the area of sports. And the reason why I feel sports is so important for a brand and community is, one, it's galvanizing, it's uniting, and we all see, right, as we track fandom and the amount of fandom that takes place not only on the first, second, third, fourth screen, in that it's just absolutely everywhere. And how are you as a brand part of that? Yeah, there's going to be a transactional component of it. That is, that's part of the game. But at the end of the day, it's two brands generally sharing equity with one another. And how can you bring content, value, and experiences to either your team members at your organization, clients, customers, but ultimately the community? And that's us. That's a little bit of the secret sauce. Is how to utilize the platforms to do great things for your brand, but most importantly, bring value to your community and clients.
Absolutely. You're a proud ambassador for the city of Detroit and have brought all these marquee sports events, be it WWE SummerSlam, the PGA Tour, the NFL Draft that we're going to talk about soon in the conversation, as well as the Rocket Mortgage Classic. One thing that really struck me was how you managed to bring the public and private sectors together and pulled in the support of like-minded marketers to make all of these absolutely grand events a success. So could you just throw some more light on that?
Yeah, and look, I even did a PowerPoint slide. I had found some time in my head there to just sort of give a little bit of a landscape of what we do. And when I joined the organization 7 years ago, Rocket, Quicken Loans moved to downtown Detroit in 2010. If anyone knows the story of Detroit, in 2010, guess who was downtown? Nobody. The lights were literally not even on. And Dan, as the company was growing, much like many other companies as we're growing, we're maybe 1,500, 2,000 people at the time. It was the conversation was, yes, we're going to go buy land, we're going to go build a campus, and they will come. And there was only one person in the organization at that time that felt that downtown Detroit was the right place to go, and that was Dan Gilbert. And he carries a veto vote, and so he said, we are going downtown Detroit. And this is inside baseball, but what he said around that room when everybody looked at him and said, we're not going downtown. No. And he talked about vision for the future, vision in terms of team members, and that the newer generations, whether it's Ys, millennials, and now Zs and alphas coming behind that, and that his belief was the future generations want to be part of an organization and a community. They may not want to go to a concrete jungle. I worked in a concrete jungle for 25 years. I know exactly what he was saying. And so when he went to downtown Detroit, he took it upon himself. One of the first things he signed up to do was on a blight task force. And it was, how do we help clean? Detroit, at the height was 2.5, 3 million people. We're at now at 700,000, so there's a lot of community areas that need to be cleaned up, and he stood there. And then it was also, one of my unofficial jobs, as you mentioned, is one is working with other organizations across the city of Detroit. So while we compete against Cadillac, while I compete against Ally, while I may compete against Little Caesars in some ways, we are all together, and that's to help lift up the city of Detroit. So when we bring things to the city of Detroit, like the Rocket Mortgage Classic, Ally brings golf to the state of Michigan, Roger Penske with the Indy races in downtown Detroit, and with the NFL Draft, which we talked about on April 25th to the 27th, that's where public and private sector come together. When we stood up the Rocket Mortgage Classic, my first phone calls were to, at the time, Deborah Wall and Melissa Grady at General Motors, and they came on board. I call Andrew Bermer at Ally. I can call Greg Hamilton at Little Caesars. And we're talking about doing things in the city, and that's exciting. And that's where, one of the things that we're very, very focused on at Rocket is doing good by doing well. And there's a reason why, I pitched Stephanie McMahon to come to Detroit for years to bring a WWE pay-per-view event to the city of Detroit. I met with Roger Goodell 4 years ago in Cleveland, and I was able to meet with him because of our Rocket partnership. And I did not talk about Rocket whatsoever. I only spoke about why Detroit should be considered for the NFL Draft. And we were in Cleveland, so we drew a lot of parallels between the city of Cleveland and the city of Detroit. Because we want to shine a spotlight on the city of Detroit. And that's why we love having folks come in. That's why I'll do a Brand Innovators event the day before on a very, very busy week, because we want people to come and see and help guide misperceptions of what's happening in our great city. And that's quite honestly one of the things that I am most proud of working on behalf of Dan and Rocket is knowing that we're setting up the city for the future generations, and that's another proud of.
I recollect you alluding to how you brought WWE to.
Yeah, you're a wrestling fan.
I'm a huge
Tell me the other day.
wrestling fan. So
I am too.
So next slide, please. So lesser known fact.
There you go.
Yeah. So lesser known fact is that the 2023 SummerSlam at Ford Field in Detroit was the most viewed SummerSlam in WWE history.
Yeah. Social, gate, everything. It's that's a juggernaut, and I know they had 5,000 people at T-Mobile yesterday for a press conference. I mean, I think the WWE, especially with the Endeavor, TKO. I mean, that is watch out. I mean, and the Netflix deal that they just struck. I mean, it is a content community machine, and I was really pleased to bring it to the city of Detroit. I mean, WWE's had a very rich history in the city of Detroit. You know, WrestleMania #3 at the time before Jerry built the Dome was the world's indoor record in 1987, if I remember correctly. They were in there in 2005 when Vince McMahon had his head shaved by then pre-president-elect President Donald Trump. And here we're back, and hopefully they'll be back again.
Why I remember that. So I really like the ad placements and the way that Rocket completely sponsored the event. I think it was, as someone who's been watching wrestling for 10 years, it was very unique for me. It seemed very organic. So Casey, we spoke about how sports is such a big part for Rocket Mortgage in their marketing strategy. Curious to know a little bit about how you measure performance or ROI on digital versus physical, and what your fundamental paradigm with this is.
Yeah, great question. I mean, obviously the world of measurement is moving so fast, and listen, I told somebody this morning at breakfast. In my 7 years at Rocket, I usually met with our CFO 3 times a year. It was generally around the upfronts. If we were doing Super Bowl and then maybe something big, right, an NFL partnership, things like that. I now meet with my CFO about twice a day, in challenging times, and it's challenging times in a lot of sectors, a lot of markets. I mean, 2020 and 2021 for us were unprecedented growth, right? We had 40, 50-year lows with interest rates, and people were refining, and when the market was opening back up after the pandemic, we had unprecedented growth as an organization. I never will forget Super Bowl XXII when we did our Barbie and a Kendrick spot, and I went to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at 7 o'clock to see the USA Today ad meter. We were #1, awesome. And about 7:05, my CEO called and said, "Get in the fucking office, we gotta talk." And he's like, "Are you done having fun? Because shit's about to get real." And he's an economist, right? And I was like, "I'm a marketer." I'm like, "We're fine, dude. We just won the Super Bowl." He's like, "Let me tell you what's happening, young man, and buckle up." And it's been a very interesting couple of years with that. Everything is measurable, right? And everything is changing so fast. As I think about our media, like a lot of brands, right? If I look at what our media plan was 3 years ago versus what it is today, brand and performance, vastly different. Vastly different, and it's changing so fast. The ability to measure and optimize, and the power of AI, and thinking about audience segmentation to placement to optimization. But also when it comes, so to answer your question, long way around, when it comes to sports partnerships, 5 years ago it was, all right, what's the investment? What's the in-kind value? Do you feel good? Let's go. And now it's, where does that impact? Where are those maybe, is it upper funnel, mid funnel? I mean, that's a conversation, that happens in every company is, all right, when it comes to partnerships and sponsorships, are you focused more? I think 5 years ago, you get away with like, listen, it's all top of the funnel. It's unaided, aided. Maybe you get some consideration. But in tough economic times, it's like, how are you driving business? How are you driving business results? We think about a full funnel. We think about a full funnel, certainly from a brand standpoint, but we also look at it holistically, thinking, all right, when we enter a partnership with WWE, for example, for SummerSlam NFL, there's an exchange, right? There's a transactional exchange, but there's an exchange of in-kind value and equity with one another. So yes, that's going to happen from a brand standpoint. But then how do we start to activate it for our team members, for our clients, for B2B partnerships, whatever it might be? And then the community. How do we engage the community? For the Rocket Mortgage Classic, probably 40% of my time is spent thinking about how the Rocket Mortgage Classic is going to help impact the community and the goodness that can come out of a brand partnership. So long way around in that. It's a riddle that changes every day, and sometimes it's at the whim of a CFO. You can have that mid-upper funnel conversation, and and they're looking at a balance sheet and they want to see what those results are, and it's a tougher conversation. Generally, those conversations always seem to happen around fucking renewal time too, right? Like, it's never in year 2 of the 5-year deal. It's on year 4. All of a sudden, like, well, where was that question 2 years ago? And evidently, they had a review of contracts and they see the renews are coming up. And then you're like, oh, this is going to be a tough year. And we had a Soke's with me who works on my Rocket Partnership team. And in my 7 years here, our our two big renewal periods came at the worst possible time of the market, and Mr. Hurbis was not a big, there were a lot of arrows sticking on his back walking around the finance floor for a while. Yeah.
I can fully understand.
Yeah, because it's that push and pull of sitting in front of a finance or a metro, whatever it might be, and they're looking at the spreadsheet of today. It's my job as a marketer, it's our job as a team to think not only about March of 23, but what is the impact that this partnership is doing in the groundwork that we're laying for H2 of 23, 24, and beyond. At the end of the day, the funnel is the funnel. And how many brands have we seen in our history where you feed the top of the funnel, and then when things get tough, you stop feeding the top of the funnel, and everyone wants to wonder why you got a brand issue. And then you run to the other end of the spectrum, and I've seen it over and over and over in 30 years, and I'm very thankful and blessed that while in tough economic times, we're still investing heavily in the mid-upper part of the funnel, because this is a long game that we are playing. One of the things I always say is it's hard to see outside the bottle, it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. And man, sometimes you just gotta frickin' step out. Your mind is best. Your mind is a parachute, and it's best used when it's open. And so sometimes you gotta get out. That's why I love coming out here, because I am out of 14 hours of meetings, and I can just sit and listen and talk and think about H2 and 24 and beyond, not what's gonna happen next week.
What I find really
My boss, make sure you put that in video. We're going to tweet that. Drop the F-bomb. Used to be able to say fuck all the time, and now it's like, sure. All right.
What I find really interesting in the sports marketing strategy for Rocket is, right from a national ski championship to something like the Super Bowl, I see Rocket covering the entire depth of audience really connection. So we've seen at EssentiallySports that with NASCAR, with the golf, with women's sports, we see repeat audiences come all the time, and we look to extensively serve them better than most of our competitors. What I want to know from a brand perspective is it something from a flexibility or from a performance or from an overall vision standpoint that you place these marketing dollars on all these different sports events, and then when it comes to city-wise, like Detroit is so important for overall. So how does your paradigm for sports marketing work when you look at certain storylines, certain niches, certain upcoming sports regions? Would love if you could throw some light on that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're fortunate that a lot of our partnerships are longer term deals. I mentioned Soke is here with me, and it is not set and forget. I mean, unfortunately, my beloved Lions season wrapped up last week, and we're sleeping off that hangover. And no matter what, within 2 weeks, we're a big part of the Detroit Lions. Like, I want them in the office talking about how we're going to reimagine next year's partnership. It's not set it and forget it. Things happen so fast, how audiences changes, fandom, whatever it might be. I'll tell you a big focus that we're going to have is the continued prolific use of storytelling content, liquid content. And there are so many stories that can be told. I'm a firm believer, and we really learned this a few years ago, 5 years ago. Dan bought a esports team. Now, this is 7 years ago, where CMOs were sitting in a room, and outside of like endemic brands, it was like esports, should you get in it, right? And we were kicking around for a year, and all of a sudden I got $1 million invoice on my table from our VC guy who said, Dan bought a team, and we're announcing that you're the entitlement sponsor, and here's $1 million, go figure it out. Here's $1 million tab. I'm like, shit, all right, and that was an eye-opening, because first of all, I know nothing about esports. My days of esports ended with Sega Genesis in 1993, right? And but I'm watching through the eyes of my kids, or the young people at the office, and that started unlocking some really interesting things. Like, all right, it's a partnership. These 5 guys live in a $25 million house in Venice, and we're gonna go. And then we started looking at esports, and they're built on the second, third screen first, right? And like at first, I'm like, why is my son on YouTube watching somebody game, right? I mean, I had to get over that like unconscious bias of like, why are you watching that kid sitting on a couch playing a game, and you're both wearing sweatpants, right? And then we started to look at it like, wow, here's an opportunity to lean in and provide value and content and behind the scenes. We own 100 Thieves, which is damn it, I'm not Call of Duty. League of Legends, thank you. And that's been a really fertile playground for us as we have the partnership with them. And then we carry that over into our partnership with the NFL, whether it's working with athletes and, but then content, storytelling, shared values along the way. The PGA tournament, which we're going to talk about, is so much centered on, providing content, social, and value to, consumers that might be a little more casual or they're leaning in for something different.
Yeah. So while the audience is watching, just want to know how I know you have a lot. There's another 3 years left. It was a fantastic hit in 2023. Ricky Fowler winning fan favorite. How do you see the Rocket Mortgage Classic right now, and in terms of your vision? I know you brought it to the company, so just
I'll tell you, we stood up the Rocket Mortgage Classic. We used to sponsor. It was called the Quicken Loans National in DC, is with the Tiger Woods Foundation. The intent was to bring a tournament to Detroit. We were 5 years into it. Tiger was not playing; he was going through his thing, and we told the PGA Tour we're out. We said the only reason we're going to continue is if you can come to Detroit. They came to Detroit, and what should take 2.5 years, we got done in 14 months. I had no effing idea how to stand up a PGA tournament, and I'd never done it before. We found a partner that hadn't really done it either, Intersport, and they had done it years ago, but really had been out of space for a bit. And in 14 months, we stood it up, and we were the most awarded event on the event that year. We're very, very proud. 25% of our vendor spend is with minority, locally owned businesses. Detroit is a city, 80% black population, right? And bringing the PGA Tour event to the city of Detroit is divisive. Make no mistake. We spent 6 months meeting with community leaders, what have you, and then the next year the pandemic hit. And our tournament was canceled, the world opened back up, we had 6 weeks to reimagine the tournament, and then this little thing called LIV happened. Everyone asks me every day, what's going on with LIV? I have no freaking idea what's going on with LIV. I think that story is still yet to unfold properly. What our focus on is bringing the best event to the city of Detroit, and listen, there are 42 PGA Tour events on the schedule. Only 2 are in urban core. East Lake with the Tour Championship in Atlanta. And look if anyone knows that story, when they started at East Lake, it was in a community that needed the help. And now 25 years later, it's thriving. And now our tournament is in the city of Detroit. Only 2 cities are in the city core. And we love having the golfers and networks and our fans stay in downtown Detroit because they now have a chance to shine that spotlight. And to me, this is a labor of love. And we've been lucky. We've had the Bryson DeChambeaus and the Tony Finau's, and our boy Ricky Fowler got off the schneid. I jumped like Bill Lambier. I have Bill Lambier height, if anyone knows that. Like Bill Lambier couldn't jump over a piece of paper. And there's a great video footage that was caught on camera. I was standing right behind 18 up in the chalet when when Ricky drained the 15-foot uphill putt on the first hole of the playoff after he was basically OB and stuck it. I literally jumped through. I look like Kobe. I pulled my hamstring too, by the way, at that point, and my groin. But I was like, holy shit! I had a feeling I hadn't felt in years because it was just like, we're here in the city. This is the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and I'm buddies with Ricky, and man, I was suffering with Ricky. I don't know. I can't play golf. I suck, and man, I've been suffering with him for 4 years, just watching. He's a fan favorite. This generation's Freddie Couples, and to see that, and it was just an amazing moment. And our tournament comes back June 24th through the 30th, and right as Super Bowl ends, we have folks out at Waste Management this week. I'm on the road recruiting players, and I pitch sponsorships. Like that's part of my job too. Like I pitch partnerships. I'm talking to brands right now, and it's a labor of love for me. And what I'm most proud of is that this was a vision that Dan Gilbert had many, many years ago, and I am just one of many people that are blessed enough to bring that vision to life.
It's always very heartening to see when sport plays so many different roles, especially to the community, and nothing like a fan favorite win. I'm a big Ricky Fowler fan myself, so it was great to watch him win. So we're at the Super Bowl. You've had a lot of success in the Super Bowl with direct advertising. Who are you excited to see? And also would love to have your thoughts on some of the sports that have played over the years and your thoughts on how the vision towards those sports have evolved for you.
Can I be vulnerable?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not vulnerable if I'm going to cock off and start yelling about somebody. If we're not in the game, I got to be honest with you, I'm in denial that we're not in the game this year. And when we're not in the game, I'm in denial we're not in the game, and I don't know, I have a hard time watching because it's like I want to be in the game, and just it's not the right time for the brand. We'll be back. And but when we're in the game, I am obsessed. I mean, it is 6 months. The last 60 days are 100-hour plus weeks. And when you're getting down to these fine tunes, and I've done 7 Super Bowl campaigns, and I'm not very smart. And we've never shipped a spot before Saturday. I would say like Bud Light's got their spot in the can in June or July. Todd Camplin probably wrapped up production 4 months ago. I'm literally at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday reviewing final edits. And I'm sick to my stomach. I'm a disaster. I tell my wife I'm getting fired on Monday. It's guaranteed. And but when we're not in the Super Bowl, Daddy goes to the game. So Daddy's here. So I don't listen. I've seen some clips. I haven't seen a lot. The formulas, right? Celebrity, music, stunts. I sometimes have a problem with brands that mail it in. There's too many brands, I think, that on Monday morning, there's people in the sales office that high-five each other, but America's not talking about them. There's the old Charlie, we used to do commercials with Charlie Sheen at Fiat, which was insanity. And he once told me, he goes, Casey, I'm going to tell you something. In Hollywood, if they stop talking about you, you're done in this town. My feeling is, if you're going to go to the Super Bowl, you want to be talked about. Ideally, it's good. If it's bad, sometimes think about Coinbase. To me, while it landed dead last in USA Today ad meter, when I saw that spot, I was like, that was freaking genius. Somebody had the chutzpah to do that. Somebody sold that into a CFO or a CEO with an ego and said, we're going to spend $20,000. Here's the concept. You ready? And then pitched it. And I was like, that really didn't fare well on the ad meter, but guess what? Their site broke that night. And it was the most conversation. So yeah, it didn't win the pundits, but to me, I was like, everyone asked me, that was we won, so yeah, I'm not clear. But I was like, Coinbase was number 2, because someone took a risk. And no one will ever do it again. The next year, everyone's like, we got to do a Coinbase idea, right? And then well, we can't do Coinbase. What's that next one? And that's where I get really excited, is for that unexpected campaign or spot they didn't see coming. Everyone expects to see John Legend. Everyone's going to see Jimmy Fallon. We're all going to see Kevin Hart. You're going to, the typical Hollywood talent. Everyone does it. But man, I love seeing the stuff that we're like, way to go, man. Way to go. You broke through and you took a risk and you didn't mail it in. That's what I get excited to see, Monday morning.
Surprise everybody.
Yeah.
Just to wrap up, we've got the NFL draft in Detroit.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're super excited about it. What can we expect?
Well, come and join April 25th to 27th in downtown Detroit. It is literally going to be, if anyone knows the city of Detroit, it is going to be right outside our headquarters in Campus Martius. And we're going to have brand innovators there on Tuesday, Wednesday. Andrew, right? Tuesday, Wednesday? Just Wednesday, thank you. And listen, real talk, it's not going to be Nashville. What do they do? 500,000-600,000 people. The city isn't set up like that. But probably 150, 200,000 a day. But it's going to be literally in the heart of the city. And so, when we have the brand innovators there the day before, we're not 25 miles away. And then, hey, we want to go see it. We're going to spill out of the building and be in the middle of the draft. And it's right outside. My whole team's leaving the building for the week. I'm giving our one of our rooms to the NFL for the social media. And I'm working with networks, and we have over 100 plus buildings in downtown Detroit. And half of my job is working with media companies and trying to help bring people in, because yet again, at the end of the day, the NFL draft is 70 million people, viewers. I'm doing my Roger Goodell memory because he was in Detroit a couple weeks ago. 70 million people, right? Super Bowl is 100, 110, so it's a pretty damn good size audience. The content is rich, and what's awesome is how many lives are changed over those 3 days. There are so many lives that are changed forever on that day. And that's going to be part of our storytelling as well. Is there's a lot of lives are changed, and people that they have their dream mates that they work with, and whether it's a Blake Corum, or a JJ McCarthy, local guys walking across the stage,
sure the Alabama, Georgia kids, all that good stuff, but somewhere along the way, they had a group of people around them that helped them get there. I think that's just absolutely rich when it comes to storytelling and community, and so I can't wait, man. It's been years and years in the making, and another great moment that Detroit's going to be have a spotlight on it, and we got the regionals for the NCAA, we got the Final Four in 27, and let's roll.
Can't wait. We'll see you there. Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you.